Hello, and welcome to part 5 of my Dragon Wars video walkthrough for the Apple II here on YouTube. In this video, we will scour through all accessible locations of the Underworld to get a mostly full in-game automap. We will note both a building and island we can't visit yet, and we will also briefly explore 2 new separate locations. In one, we are blocked from going beyond the entry, and the other has very nice treasure nearby but is deadly if we explore it too much. Given that a lot of this is just walking to make sure that I covered all the squares and fleeing from combats, this may be one to go through at double speed. I've provided links to my graphics and walkthrough below. Okay, so here is the map. It is not covered yet. We are just simply going to go all the way west, and it is a 32 by 32 map. And you will also notice this is where we went down from Tars. It's just east of where we went down from Purgatory, and the stairs up correspond roughly to where an area is on the map. It's not exact, but it's pretty good. And there's a big pit to the north and south that kind of corresponds to the water or the main sea of Dilmun. So I'm pretty much avoiding fights here. Even one enemy can sting you. There are spitting snakes which take you for damage, and of course I want to get to the pool. And I'm covering the little nooks here first before I run hard to the left or right. We're going east and west because, as I mentioned, there was the pit to the north that we can't cross, so it'll go a bit quicker this way. For the most part, there are no fixed combats in the Underworld either, so you can just run. And you notice sometimes combats will appear on a water square because they really do randomize it. I guess they check for combats before they check for a square. And again, Serpentmen, we can probably win any one of these fights. I'm risking things a bit here, but also I can just use Fire Blast because there is the regeneration pool nearby. It's tough to judge whether it's quicker to just beat the enemies quickly or to run from them. Here it would have been quicker to run, and so I need to heal up. We're going to be using Carla's bandage skill a lot. And this one, it's interesting. The goblins cackle like twigs, and the serpent warriors are not easy. And the enemies are actually kind of random, the ones that pop up, but there seem to be 8. So this is definitely guarding some worthwhile treasure, a bunch of dragon stones, so we don't even have to use the pool. You know, I'm not sure what a bomb does. There is a neat document on GameFAQs which explains all the items. The game's not clear about it, so the items can pile up. I know I just said, oh hey, I bet this item gives better armor class and attack than the other one, or this item sounds tougher. Also, I really should have sold those battle axes the first chance I got. I think I went right to the recharge pool after fighting in the arena. And that's going to pop up again through this video walkthrough, so I'll chalk it up to making an unintentional lesson that you want to keep the inventory tidy when you can. And I didn't do a great job of it, but also trying too hard to has its own pitfalls. You do always want to use spell scrolls when you have them. And here I'm just checking the automap every so often. If there is no blank space to the left, I go down 1 and then I go left again. And doing this, we can move along pretty quickly. The part south of Purgatory is the easiest, at least for a while, because we don't have the river and the buildings blocking it. We're going to see in a bit there's something else that makes it a bit tricky. Okay. Paragraph 127 basically says, well, you need to go beat Namtar, yay, rah, rah. And it doesn't provide any concrete information, but it's kind of neat to see. There's going to be treasure ahead, which is why the place is worth scouring. The rusty axe is a good item, but this one will be better. There we go. You see, Norm almost died, and we can't fix that yet. I took a few risks here I didn't need to, and in fact, the whole video I had to cut because I just flat out forgot to save. And here I remembered to save because these flames, you can see they sap your strength, which means they take 1 hit point from you. And here I go east and then south because if you rotate while you are on the fire, it counts as a turn and you lose a hit point. So we want to minimize that. And also we don't want to get too low because we might have an enemy who does ranged damage or who's 10 feet away attack us, and that's probably fatal. And here's the lock chest. I never remember where it is inside the fire, but it is worth looking for. I think it's probably best to have 2 lockpick for this one, maybe 3 if you can. Now I just have to pitch the battle axes because I remember what's in here. There's the slicer, and the slicer is very, very good because it gives you extra attack, at least 2 hit. It does extra damage and it gives the 2 hit as well. And yeah, this is always kind of grindy where you find who can take the final dragon stone. You might as well use it. It will make adventuring go faster. And if you say, oh, should I use a spell here? Yes, you probably should. But there's actually going to be a big fight in a bit where it's really, really useful to have dragon stones. Because after all, you can't go to the recharge pool in the middle of a fight. Now here is the pit. There's a small peninsula, and the fairies knocked everyone down to 1 hit point, but having bandage makes it easy to reverse that. And I like the railing here so you can't fall in, unlike in Irkalla's realm. And here is one of the new places I talked about. It's called Salvation. And it's actually very close to the end game. The guards are very tough, the pilgrims are not. I probably should have run from this fight. It's not a fixed fight, but fortunately, it won't take too many spell points away from me, and besides, I know the next fight has MP rechargers. Actually, they're new ones. I'm going to spoil things a bit. It's really, really nice. So, remember to save the game. So here's where I recovered. We got a good draw for enemies with pilgrims and relatively few Stoßtruppen. So there's also no shame in fleeing to get something favorable. The game seems to acknowledge this and let you do so. So this fight isn't too bad. We'll see the Stoßtruppen elsewhere. And by the way, I saved just after the 9-minute save as well. I forgot. I had Diane use Sense Traps, Cloak Arcane, and Healing as well. I just never got around to using these scrolls, and Cloak Arcane will be important later on. I found it's useful to have a checklist of spells to keep the inventory under control. Ideally, it would say, once you get this spell from this fight or this location, use it. This is for people who actually want to go through the game. So munching items is taking a while here. It's hard to find a convenient shop early to sell them, and perhaps I should have done so when going to defeat the Humbaba. I could also have detoured to Lansk. It's funny that it's probably more important to have open inventory spaces than the cache. So yeah, this is what happens when you don't have the open inventory spaces. I should probably just drop a lot of this stuff. There we go. By the way, Lansk is something we will explore in part 7, and we just haven't run across the passage up to the underworld. And these dragon eyes recharge 30 spell points, as opposed to Dragonstone's 20, which can be a huge difference sometimes. For instance, if we have our stats at 30, or our spell points at 30, and we cast 2 Fire Blasts, that knocks us down to 6. And then if we use a Dragon Eye, we can cast Fire Blast twice again. You may say, oh, we're wasting 6 spell points. But it's not a huge deal. Sometimes that first strike you get in is so much more important. And we do save the Dragon Eyes for critical fights. But it probably is best to increase our spirituality a bit. I had to leave a few behind, but I don't need them all. Increase spirituality so that we aren't running up against these edge cases where we waste a few spell points when the Dragon Eye goes over our maximum. So yes, this is another place that on its own makes bandage handy because hit points drop to 1, they go back up to maximum, or for Frazier, close to maximum. We'll be getting Carla to 10 bandage sooner or later. But first I want to work within, reasonable constraints without, the big cheats we used about seeing Irkalla a bunch of times. And in the meantime, we're trying to find a reasonable way to map things out. The fires, it gets kind of tiresome to keep bandaging all the time, so I decided, okay, I'll keep going with the horizontal back and forth. Before I thought, I might as well get the fires done all at once, but in fact, that may cause problems with, turning around and taking damage each time I turn. And we have a small break here. The Dwarf Clan Hall stairs up to it. I can never quite remember where the passage is. You notice I just kind of ducked in and out because the what looked like a clear passage ahead was, in fact, an invisible barrier. We need softened stone to get by that, or we can enter the Dwarf Clan Hall from above. There's a way to do that. We need a special item, and we haven't visited the King's Isle yet. So that's another neat little mystery the game shows you. And, okay, I maybe got away with one against the spitting snakes there. There are so many ways you can lose hit points and think, I can get all the way down to 1, right? But then you get bad luck. And we've seen this place before, so we don't need to revisit the Clan Hall. And now we are close to the point where we can just pick off individual squares. And you notice I'm going beyond the square and then rotating back. They're at least nice enough to mostly make them kind of a grid, a diagonal grid of squares, so only every other square has fire that can damage you. But I still, after playing several times, I still don't have a good grasp of where in the fire the Dwarf Clan Hall is. But then again, you don't have to know everything exactly. And looky there. Even though there were all those flames around, our mage light still ran out and it was dark, which is kind of a bummer. But Mage Light doesn't cost too many points, so not really worth complaining about. And this should be the last time I need to heal when mapping out the fires. I really cut it close there. Since I know it's just 1 point per turn, I suppose I should have looked at my player stats to see how many hit points were left. But now most of the dirty work is done, at least in the south, for mapping stuff out. We'll go to the north, which is more jagged, but there will be less to do. First, we'll map out what water areas we can. They do get mapped if you jump on them. And you can see we're mapping out a building right now, or the outside of a building. And so far we haven't seen a way in. You may remember what it is, either if you have a very good memory of maps or sort of by elimination. It's the south side of Irkalla's realm. And it's all coming together pretty nicely now. Again, it's not critical that we map out the whole underworld, but it's one of those things that just look nice once you've done it. So we haven't seen this building yet. This building is Lansk. The passage up leads to a place with some pretty tough fights, actually, but there are also shops that are pretty close. So we could nip in there to where they sell armor and weapons and sell stuff quickly. It also has some spells, but we don't need them precisely right now. There we go. Let's get Irkalla's bonus. And one thing I neglected about the pit is that you actually can walk around in there, but it just leaves a black space instead of, the orange and black pit you see. So you don't really get things mapped out, unfortunately. And you see an island to the east. We don't have the item to get east to the island, but we eventually will. So we'll be coming back here. And looks like we've mapped pretty much everything out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the Mystic Wood for the next place we want to go through. This will have a little more conflict. It's the city of Phoebus, which is on the Isle of the Sun on the north edge. It's where we got Valar, and we're going to look through it and the dungeon. So that's all there is to this video. Thanks for watching through, and if you've enjoyed this enough, giving a like or subscribing if you haven't already goes a long way in encouraging me to share more videos of fun games you may want to revisit or didn't realize you missed. See you next video.